Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Third Estate podcast, where we talk about anything finance and whatever else comes to mind. I'm your host, AJ Abarca, along with me, Antone, and today we have guests with us, Eddie and Nameless, to talk about Earth 2 and the Metaverse. Guys, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and just let the audience know a bit about your background and who you are? Eddie, why don't we start with you?
Okay, my name is Eddie. I've been working in tech industry for past 14 years, and I've been engaged in some small startups and entrepreneurship, and a lot in the crypto space. I even bought a house for cryptocurrency mining back in 2016. So yeah, I'm very into cryptocurrency projects. I've been following cryptocurrency and Bitcoin from 2011. So I know the how things are going, and I'm always super passionate about it. And I stumbled upon Earth 2 and this metaverse early January this year. And yeah, I found it interesting. I found it worth a bet. So yeah, here I am.
Yeah, and Nameless, why don't you tell everyone, because I think you have a pretty impressive background at least in this space, so tell us about yourself.
Hey, well, thanks for having me, you guys. I appreciate that first and foremost, and shout out to Chimera Wealth, of course. So my name is Nameless. Pretty easy to remember, I'm sure. And I had gotten into Earth 2 and the metaverse as a whole in December of last year, probably only a couple weeks before Eddie. And since then, we started a Twitch stream and we've got a community going. It's the largest community in all of Earth 2. We've also got the largest Twitch stream in all of Earth 2. We stream every single day, covering the news, the updates, all those other things. So when I had gotten into it, initially the first thing I thought was, wow, there's no way this is legit. This looks really shady. I don't like it. And I started checking it out and looking into it, looking at the development team, who's behind this thing, people like Wolfgang Walk, Nathaniel Dolderson. This was even before Ralph C. Adam was on the team. It looks like that might have been temporary. It looks like he might have left since then. And it just seemed like if something like this is going to be pulled off and it's going to start with such a small team, this is probably that small team. So I dove in, and it's been a heck of a journey. And yeah, right now I'm probably one of the largest virtual real estate owners in the world.
All
Nice,
right, cool.
nice. Oh, I just wanted to ask, we're happy, like AJ said, to have you here. And just kind of give everyone an idea that doesn't know, and I'm one of them, kind of what Earth 2 is and what the metaverse is, on kind of just maybe a general statement, because I don't really have any idea,
Yeah.
personally.
So their goal, as they've stated anyway, their goal is to create a sort of one-to-one scale copy of Earth, and then they're gonna more or less reset it, right? So they're gonna take away the buildings, the roads, the structures, the things we're used to, and it's gonna be a clean slate. And the players will go in and they'll really build it however they like. So, uh, you know, thinking of other games, it'll sort of be kind of like a sandbox, right? But being a metaverse is going to have this economic piece to it. So there's not a lot of games that really combine this idea of a sandbox with something like an economic simulator. You kind of wrap it all up into an MMO, a massive multiplayer online game, and that's what Earth 2 is trying to do here.
So
So
easiest way to, I think, regular layman person to understand. Have you watched the movie Ready Player One?
No.
You never
no.
watch movie? Come on.
There
So,
haven't been a lot of good movies that have come out in the last 20, 30 years, in my opinion.
so Ready
Okay,
Player
okay.
One is a movie about where everyone lives in the virtual world, right? Because after, like climate issues or something. So basically, like virtual world economy is dominating economy in this movie. Like for instance, so basically, there's a company running their business in the metaverse instead, right? And more people are spending more time and spending more money in this virtual world called Oasis. That's the background of the movie Ready Player One.
Okay.
It's a book as well if you're more into novels. I would say one of the reasons now Earth 2 does say, their metaverse, they want it to be like Ready Player One or even The Matrix. I think that's a bit of a stretch. And the reason I say that is because even in the movie Ready Player One or the book, or of course, even in The Matrix, they're utilizing a very futuristic, fully immersive virtual reality experience. And while I think that that is the desired long term goal of Earth 2, I think more in the shorter term, they intend to deliver the metaverse via PC app, right? So I think a great way to just get into what is the potential? How do I kind of dip my toe in the water of virtual reality or the potential of a metaverse? And I would recommend on Steam, there's a game, it's totally free. It's called VR Chat. And you can play it on your desktop. You don't have to go get a virtual reality headset, but you can play from your PC with people who have that virtual reality headset. And you see, 10 years ago, virtual reality was just so inaccessible and it was just this developing technology. Now we're starting to see that virtual reality, it doesn't need to be a standalone technology. It can be integrated with mobile technology, with PC technology. And we're starting to see that integration happen already.
Okay. Well,
So in regards to that, I'm curious, are there multiple metaverses, and basically each metaverse is based on a different game? Like
Yeah.
these are games essentially, or that's where I'm
Yeah.
kind of confused when it comes to that, right? Because
Mhm.
recently, from I've heard, like from Facebook's recent earnings, they were talking about they're going to start focusing going into this kind of metaverse realm. But
Mhm.
you know, to me, it's a bit okay. Ready Player One, it's this virtual reality, but there are different metaverses all around, and how does that really play into, I guess, how society is going to progress? And I'm just curious why the media are giving
Mhm.
so much attention to it recently.
Yeah,
So
I think the time is now. Oh, go ahead, Eddie.
just to add a few things, like not just entertainment, not just game industry, but many like business application as well. Like Immerse 3D is one of example. They create this VR system where you're bringing your office like on your VR, and that's even better than the real office. In the office, you have say 3 monitors. This Immerse VR, you have like 8 monitors. If you want to zoom out something in a big screen, you can, do that like virtually. You can actually go to the meeting or talk to the people like as you work in the VR, right? So not just in the entertainment gaming industry, but also Microsoft like Teams are trying to become the metaverse platform for working remotely. So basically the whole idea is that after COVID, we have seen that things are still running like work and remote working. So many like even the business industry, they're trying to find this as an opportunity. Okay, what can we do? And some Korean company also implement this like really small 2D. It doesn't even have to VR, like 2D game where you can walk around the office, and if you go to the meeting room, then the video chat meeting just automatically starts. So basically, people are looking for some place to pretend like they're in the office, and that's the metaverse coming into business.
I think there's just layering onto that as well is you talk about Facebook, Epic Games, and Sony are also partnering. I believe they've raised something like $1 billion for a metaverse. There's also Earth 2, of course, and then there's also Sandbox. The list goes on and on. There are a bunch of metaverse companies coming up right now. It's sort of like the space race, right? But it's the
Mm,
metaverse. It's going to be who can create it first. And I think that there's plenty of room in the metaverse space for all these different ones. You've got things like Sandbox that are very Minecraft like. It's very blocky, very poor quality graphics. You buy this plot of land and you can build a Minecraft looking sort of structure on it and stuff like that. People are paying for that land because it's available. And I see Antone making a face. And honestly, when I saw Sandbox, I thought the same thing. I said, when I look at this, I see why people are skeptical about it too. Like, why would you put money into that thing? Sandbox isn't for me, but for the people who put money into it, hey, good for them. I hope they make a killing, right? Um,
how much
Earth
money are we
2,
talking about?
oh, it depends. Again, so Sony and Epic raised $1 billion, and that's just for the concept. Earth
mhm,
2 is also still uh, in that concept sort of stage. They are delivering some of their technology incrementally, but it would be disingenuous to act like there's a fully immersive metaverse that's been delivered. And they've raised tens of millions of dollars, somewhere between 50 and 100 million. It's hard to be 100% certain from where I am. You know, it's not a publicly traded company with like a quarterly earnings call. Facebook easily, you know, we don't know how much they'll throw at it, but probably hundreds of millions, maybe billions.
How much though the users, just the everyday people?
Yeah.
Um,
Putting in or getting out?
um, I guess both. I mean, I'm
Both.
just
Yeah.
curious because the reason I asked that is because when AJ had mentioned that he wanted to talk about the metaverse and Earth 2, it was because, like you just mentioned, you have all these companies that think that this is the next place that's going to be a very hot area, and a lot of companies are getting into it. And because I look at this, right, if you tell me this is something for gaming and it's just something that people use because they enjoy it, it's fun, I can get that, right? There's a lot of games out there, whether on the computer or video games or with an Xbox or a PlayStation or even in person, right? We've had board games since ancient times, but there's a difference between playing something as a game versus playing something because you're trying to make money off of it and as an investment. And that's kind of where that's why I'm curious how much are regular people spending.
So regular people, it really depends. There are people who have pulled out, put in maybe $100 and pulled out a couple hundred or maybe a couple thousand. The largest withdrawal in Earth 2 history is $116,000. As far as this idea of sort of combining the game with the concept of making money, this may be a surprise for folks who aren't big into gaming. That's not new. Second Life came out ages ago, and Second Life runs on a very similar philosophy. You buy the land and you can put microtransactions on that land. So there are people who sell all sorts of content, right? Some of which we probably don't want to talk about. But people log into this metaverse and then pay for content inside of the metaverse. There's also Entropia Universe, the largest virtual real estate transaction. I believe actually that record might have been broken recently, but even back to like 2000, I don't know the exact year, somebody had sold a virtual nightclub for hundreds of thousands of dollars because people go to
I
this
have
virtual
seen this
nightclub.
I've seen this like game becoming economy like in South Korea because I'm from South Korea, and from like 15 years ago, I don't know if you guys heard of a game called Lineage. So it's like a MMORPG game where it's very just a traditional MMORPG like a Diablo, like you kill the monsters and you get the items, you sell it and things, and like that small graphic, that small like a sword that gets sold for like $1 million, seriously, like million US dollar for that small graphic, and there's an industry already going. So Lineage, I see here, they made a revenue of $2 billion last year. So this is all about like this internal gaming economy where I have this, like I have this one that you guys cannot buy. Like this is the only thing that this is the thing that I have, and I'm stronger than you guys, or those kind of like social aspects of economy is going to gaming. So that's where I see like it can be like if a company can make $2 billion selling game items, they can do it globally, and that's what we are seeing in Earth 2. That's why, okay, let's try this.
Right. Well, and
Okay,
that's
I want to,
okay. Jay, go ahead.
Anton, you'll probably get happy after I start asking these questions. So, I mean, to the full transparency, my introduction to the space, Eddie actually had sent me a text message. I'm not entirely sure when. It could have been February, what have you. And
Mhm.
at first, I was like, okay, here's a guy who just mentioned, right? He had purchased a house and wanted to do crypto mining, went all in back in the day. Now he's sending me something else, and I'm looking through it, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. But then when I watch the YouTube videos, it's
I'm
at least for Earth 2, right? It's okay, you're buying little plots of virtual land, and the at least the videos at the time when I saw it was like you're buying it, and then eventually you're going to sell it in the future for a higher price. And I'm like, how is that possible? This just seems like a crazy scam to me, right? So I'm curious, because the way you guys describe it, right, Eddie, you mentioned earlier that, you know, there are some teams, and I've even have a friend, she's really into VR and likes to use it to increase her productivity. That component I understand, but I don't know, it seems from everything I've heard, not from you guys, but just, you know, from the media and from other sources, that the metaverse is largely more on a gaming centric, and it's on a consumer basis, not so much adding to productivity. And it kind of concerns me, right, that there's tons of money that you just mentioned going into these, but it's not actually adding like real value, right? Maybe happiness, stuff like that. But I mean, come on, man. Like, are you telling me that people are just going to continue to buy things in the metaverse and not like that? To me is just, oh, okay, that will probably lead to the next great recession if everyone's just buying things online and we're not producing.
I
What are your
think
thoughts on that?
I think what you're getting at is it's more of a commodity than a necessity, right? It's a luxury spend for sure, and I would agree with that. I don't think anyone and everyone should dump their life savings into Earth 2, right? What we've always said is what we would say about anything, right? Again, we're not financial advisors. We're not giving financial advice, but a basic financial advice that you could, you would see, or most people would agree with, is you really shouldn't invest any money that you're not willing to lose, number one, and then understand the risk, right? Getting into something at the concept stage of development is about as high risk as it gets, because you have no real proof of concept, right? There's no working beta. The technology doesn't function at this time. So we're more or less betting on the potential success in the future. Touching on what you had said about, are people going to continue to buy money or spend money in the metaverse or buy products in the metaverse? I think absolutely. Is Earth 2 going to be the one? Well, I certainly hope so, because I bet pretty big on it, right? But could it be Epic's metaverse? Could it be Facebook's metaverse? Could it be, the sandbox pull ahead of Earth 2? Right now, it's like leagues and leagues behind. Possibly. But keep in mind, people are not opposed to microtransactions in games, and people have been paying for their games through things like monthly subscriptions, through things like in-game microtransactions for ages. This has been going on for a while. World of Warcraft came out in like 2015, and people have been paying $15 a month to play this game since 2005, not 2015, right? So it's been like 16 years it'll be in, I think, October. And there are still people who pay that $15 a month every single month to log in and keep killing the same monsters, because it's fun. It's exciting. And then there's other games like Entropia Universe, where almost everything you do is a microtransaction. If you log into Entropia for the first time and you say, I want to be a miner, you have to spend real cash to get your, pickaxe. And then you're going to break that pickaxe mining. So you have to hope that you mine enough to recoup your investment and get another pickaxe and then sell whatever you've mined and all of that. It's baffling to people who aren't into these games and these concepts, how and why people keep putting money into them. And yeah, it's super fun. That's what it really boils down to, is it's super fun.
I think there's the distinction though. You kind of said it right. Microtransactions. You're spending $15 a month. Though that's money spent for pleasure, right? You're just, it's something that's fun for you. You could argue that, if I pay a subscription to go to a gym, right, it's the same thing. And there's a little bit more benefit, right? Because I'm physically, improving my body, whatever. And
assuming you go
and you're getting, it's healthy for you, right? But the key is the money being spent is small. It's not, and I get the big money on the high level for these companies spending the money, like a Facebook, Epic, that, they're going to spend a lot of money, because if they have enough people playing the game, even spending just small amounts, right? Small amounts spent by a lot of people becomes a lot of money, right?
Right.
But it's more I think the concern to what AJ's talking about is, and my concern as well, is these people that they're doing things in an alternate reality to make money. It's like, it's not really, they might have fun doing it at the same time, but their goal is to make money and or get rich doing certain things. And yes, some people, you have those instances of people spending $1 million for basically a virtual sword, or 100,000 or whatever it was for the nightclub.
Mhm.
You have those one-off exceptions, but I look at the world today, and I think a lot of this is trending towards, it's basically people are not happy and they're trying to escape reality by
Mhm.
going into an alternate world,
Mhm.
and that's why you have certain things like crypto. You have, I think of the movie, and a lot of people who are listening may not know this movie because they don't watch anything back in the day when they made good movies. But the movie Platoon, right? There's a scene in Platoon where it's in the Vietnam War, and they're back at base, and basically they've just seen a lot of bad stuff, and one of their men died, and was ended up being killed by this sergeant who's on their side, Tom Berenger, and he comes in, and everybody's basically getting high and doing all these things, and he makes this statement where he's like, "You guys are all doing all this stuff because you're trying to escape reality." And he basically said, "I am reality," right? As he takes a big swig of alcohol, and this guy's drunk, right? So clearly he's trying to escape reality. And I think, I don't know, that's the problem, right? Is what's the value add to society? If you have more and more people that are trying to escape society and reality, and they're not adding any value, whether to
So
themselves or
before
society, it's a problem.
before Nameless has anything to say with that, I want to ask Anton and AJ. So are you guys thinking pessimistic about the metaverse in general, or just on Earth too? And then the comparison I can give is like Roblox or Minecraft or Fortnite that has made the news on the Venture Digest, for example. So what's your opinion on like this gaming industry is ever booming, and then this VR technology is ever going to grow, and Roblox, Minecraft, Facebook, these are all going to pour more monies on this. So are you guys opposed to this trend, or are you guys questioning the Earth to whether they can deliver?
Well, I'll start, Anton, and I'll let you
Yeah.
go second. So I mean, in my regards, it's neither. Uh, I mean, that's kind of the purpose of why we had this podcast, not just for our
Mm-hmm.
audience, but for ourselves as well. Because I'll be completely honest, I don't know too much about the metaverse. I've
Mm-hmm.
obviously, with the media attention that it's been getting recently,
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to learn a bit more. Like I said, my whole thing with Earth 2 was honestly when you texted me that day many months ago, and I looked into it and I was like, okay, Eddie's freaking crazy. Like, maybe we should have a group call of friends to make sure he's okay. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to learn more about
Mm-hmm.
Earth 2. My idea of it's more of a concern I have personally of, Anton and myself are kind of in agreement that there's so much money into the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether monetary, fiscal policy, at least in the United States. And I mean, one could argue globally as well, just kind of how my question is on the thoughts of, well, if everyone is, let's say metaverse is very well adopted
Mm-hmm.
on a high percentage of the population, well, in order for our society to continue to evolve, right,
Mm-hmm.
productivity is necessary on a real scale, right?
Mhm.
Now, you could argue, right, that as I mentioned earlier, you could be productive if you're working virtually and you have multiple desktops or screens that you can look at versus just physically.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I have 3 right here. Maybe I can be more effective if I have 5.
Right.
But when it comes to the gaming component, yes, I understand that games
Mm-hmm.
will always be around.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of, from my understanding of the Ready Player One, I haven't seen it myself either. If everyone's in that world and they're all trying, it's eventually, my idea is, well, whoever is the
Mm-hmm.
winner of creating the most popular metaverse, they're the ones who are controlling all the money. And
Mm-hmm.
it kind of goes a bit with and contrarian with what we've seen on the other side with some of
Mm-hmm.
the like the DeFi and the crypto space, right? Where it's like, well, we want to
Mm-hmm.
decentralize all of that power.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's for me, it's more educational. I don't have an opinion at this point, but
I see.
uh, Anton, you maybe will.
Yeah, I have a lot of opinions.
So
No,
I
So
want
what do you
to.
say of Roblox?
Nameless, did you want
Roblox,
to
like
say?
Minecraft, those are the big names. Fortnite, you heard the news where Travis Scott run the concert in the Fortnite, 10 millions of people joined the call. That actually sparked the whole this venture metaverse thing. So what's your opinion on that, Anton?
Well, so for me, my opinion is that if it's for, again, if it's for people's enjoyment, it's an entertainment value add to people, then that's not something that I'm going to do personally, but I can understand other people that might be something that they
Mm-hmm.
find entertaining. Where I disagree
Yeah.
with it is the attempt by individuals to make money and make it an economic
Mm-hmm.
add to society, because it's not. I mean, the reason those large companies are putting so much money into it is because they're expecting to make a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why the companies are doing it. But
Mm-hmm.
individuals are not Facebook, right? People, and
Mm-hmm.
Right.
yes, again, there might be one or two people that are going to make money, right? There's always people that can manipulate, but if that becomes the theme, and that, I think that is definitely a large theme that we're seeing in society today, not just in this metaverse. And so basically, I guess, to answer your question earlier about, is it Earth 2 or the wider scale, I
Mm-hmm.
would say it's the wider scale. I have no real opinion as to if Earth 2 will succeed or not. I wouldn't be shocked if it does succeed as a game, right? I'm not
Mm-hmm.
making that claim. It's more
Mm-hmm.
people, if people think that they're going to go on Earth 2, millions of people or thousands, and get rich, that's a problem, because I think if you have a bunch of games where people are doing that, the
Mm-hmm.
expectation that can happen continuously is just not, it's not reality, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
But also, even if it does become reality for a short time,
Mm-hmm.
when you have that many people not adding value to society, it's a
Mm-hmm.
problem.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
Yeah,
it
it's
goes
not
back to what you
sustainable.
said. It really depends on what that value add is, right? Entertainment is a value add. Productivity,
Yeah.
of course, is a value add, and we'll start to see. I'm getting a little bit of feedback, by the way. Somebody has us on speaker, I think. What you will see is some things move over to the metaverse. Which metaverse is it going to be? No idea. But you'll start to see therapists move over to the metaverse and do virtual reality therapy sessions, right? You'll start to see things like motivational speakers. Eddie already talked about, you're starting to see concerts come into this space. Not everybody's going to get rich in this. Not everybody's even going to make money. A lot of people are putting money into Earth 2 looking for the game aspect, right? So from that perspective, people say, well, if I'm just here to enjoy the game, what should I do? And I say, well, I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. But if I were thinking of enjoying the game only experience of Earth 2, I wouldn't put any more money into Earth 2 than I would spend on a brand new video game. Right now, that's around $60, right? For brand new, hot off the press, just released video game. And that's for the entertainment aspect. Myself, I've put in significantly much more than that, right? I'm one of the largest tile owners in the game, and I do expect to make some money, specifically in Earth 2, if they deliver their concept, right? Certainly, and if you'll see things like ad revenue. We haven't seen ad revenue quite yet, but we're going to get to a point where when people visit my properties, whether that's on the map or whether they visit them, they'll have ads delivered to them, and I'll get a portion of that ad revenue. So yeah, I expect to make some money for sure. I can sell my properties, which I have sold some. I have properties I paid about $10 for in South Korea, actually, that I sold for about $1,500. So the money is there. It is happening. But I do agree, Antone, with the point you're making that we should be very careful about spreading the idea that every person who puts $1 into the metaverse is going to make $1 million, right? Because that is ridiculous. But like with anything, it's how you manage your business. There are people who have a lot of property on Earth too that I'm somewhat concerned for, because I don't know that they've got the balance. There's a certain balance that needs to happen, and it needs to be a balance of someone who understands how to run a successful business, how to run a successful brand, how to manage their investments properly, and then you have to balance that with someone who knows how to run a clean game, right? And be a great gamer and develop an amazing strategy and then implement that strategy. And that has to happen. in terms of who can make money and to what extent, every property in Earth 2 is going to generate things that you can just sell, right? So how much of your money do you make in the long run? We're not quite there yet, but every property in Earth 2 can be used however you like. Some people will only use it for, the simple fact of, can I just crank out a couple dollars here and there off of this one property? Or, can I do something big and extravagant and cutting edge? Like, like Eddie's talking about is, setting up office spaces and productivity and all those things and seeing what you can get. We're going to have to see as the technology gets further and further along. But I personally believe that the metaverse is here to stay, and we're going to see it penetrate any and every business that does not require a physical body at a physical location.
But I think it's kind of selling short the importance of why is all of this starting, right? Why do people, what do as humans, what do we need? I think a lot of people, even if you're an introvert, right, you need human to human interaction. And I think we've seen a progression since the advent of social media and cell phones that people are getting less and less connected to the people and the communities around them. And so what has that led to? It has led to people being unhappy. And then that leads to, okay, I'm not happy with the world that I live in. So what am I going to do? I'm going to create a virtual world on Earth 2, or I'm going to go create this metaverse over here that they don't realize it's not going to make you happier, right? And that's where people that spend all their time on social media, like you mentioned ad revenue, okay? There's a lot of companies, some of the biggest companies in the world, their primary revenue source is ad revenue, right? If you look at Facebook and Google, now they do have certain aspects to their businesses that provide value, right, to other businesses to get the word out about what they're doing, right? But in a general sense, I think a lot of these social media companies, they're not really doing anything. And I had a conversation in college. This was more than 10 years ago with a professor, and he was making the argument that the goal for every country should be to transition to a service-based economy. You want to basically have your factories and your actual good producing output in other countries, cheaper countries where you can get it for less and it's more efficient, and that the wealthiest countries are service-based. And basically he was touting the fact that the US is a service-based economy. And I had a big argument with him because I said, obviously, if you want to be a wealthy country, you do have to have a strong service sector. You're not going to see a very poor country have a rich country not have a service sector, or a poor country have a strong service sector. So that's for sure. You need a good service-based economy. But what's the foundation of any economy? It's the real goods and services that are produced. And I think the fact that when I look at certain countries in the world that have been the economic powerhouses for the last century and even multiple centuries, they've done away with those factory producing services, and now they're weaker, and that's why we're seeing this, right? If you look at Japan, what's their problem? They work very hard, but what's their problem? Their economy is such that they don't have people being born, right? So you need real people alive and well working. That's a problem. If you look at South Korea, right? What my concern with South Korea is everybody wants to be a gamer. I mean, not everybody, but there's a very strong gaming culture, right? What is gaming? Yes, there's a value add to entertainment, but that's a cherry on top. Where's the foundation, right? What are we producing?
So we can ask a question: why South Korea are crazy about this? Why are they focusing on gaming? And because there's no other way. South Korea, for example, is very service saturated industry right now. After the industrial in 70s and 80s, now many things became service oriented. So I don't know the actual number, but what I learned is that South Korea, many people works as a service in the industry. But what happened after COVID is that all the service people, all the service people are running out of jobs and have nothing else to do, right?
Right,
So
right, and that goes
they're trying to
to
create
my
a
point.
service. They're trying to create the industry in the online world,
But
So
that's my
what is the
problem, though.
difference between the sports? Like, what's the difference between football player and the StarCraft player, right? People watch the
Right.
game, enjoy the game, right? And that's already like equivalent to a sports game, in my opinion. And my further
Hmm.
opinion is that, let's say 100 years later, Olympics gonna merge with the some digital like gaming drone fight or some weird thing. So things are gonna change, and this I think like metaverse. This is like in the middle of that.
Let me ask you this. So, because the reason I was going to go with this is because I think that again the people are unhappy. What are they doing?
Mhm.
They're creating social media. They're doubling down on what's making them unhappy. Same thing, like you said, South Korea
Let's
is
say like
going to.
maybe
Well,
not
hold on.
everyone is unhappy, but there's
Yeah, but
nothing else to do. What do we
well,
do?
hold on. Let me finish this. So they're unhappy and they're doubling down. Right. That's my point of service based economy, and now they have nothing to do. And then instead of saying, hey, let's go back to the basics, let's go back to basics and actually produce something of value, they're doubling down on the service base. And we're doing this in the US, right? We've got all these tech companies that aren't really doing anything. And some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. And we're assigning value to them. And now if you look in the US, there's a lot of areas in the US that are economically struggling. Now I'm saying this even prior to COVID. Obviously, COVID
Mhm.
has really hit people, but these struggles have been apparent since 08, 09, and there have been ebbs and flows to it. But what are the economies right now that are really kicking some ass, right? Like, what are the countries that are basically eating everybody's lunch? China, India's looks like it's on the come up to me. And what do they all have in common? They have factories that are producing the world's goods, and they sell those goods to other countries that need them because everybody needs electricity. They need housing. They need lumber. They need metals. They need, they need a car, right? They need physical goods. And so when they go and sell those goods abroad, they become wealthy. And that's why China is growing. That's why India is growing. And what they do is they then take that money and they're going abroad and basically buying, in China's example, they're buying up large swaths of Africa, areas of Asia,
Yeah.
South America, Central America, the U.S. even,
Mhm.
and that's my point, right? Is
Yeah, so those are
physical.
all super important things, and that's the foundation and base of all economy. I 100% agree with that. But not many countries can compete with those Indian cheap labors and Vietnamese and China, right? So, for example, Korean economy, what they chose is like a Korean drama, like a cartoon, like a webtoons and gaming industry, like BTS and like Netflix dramas here and there. So this is the things that we had to choose because you guys already know, like, as factories are being more automated, many things are being more automated. The people that needs to produce some real goods are going down and down. So what are all these people gonna do? Like when the UBS, like universal basic income, those kind of things becomes normal, what do these people do? Entertainment, game, like
Well,
enjoy
I
the
would
spend
even
time
I would
somehow.
even add to that. I think, Antone, I don't really disagree with the things that you're saying, except that I think you're linking the two things together, and that I would probably disagree with a little bit. The rise of the service industries and some of these powerhouse economies you described, I don't know that that's necessarily the fault or to be blamed for the lack of some of the manufacturing and production. And I would even use one of your own examples, China, right?
no,
So
I
yeah,
wasn't.
China has these
No,
factories,
yeah,
but China is
yeah.
also looking at being on the cutting edge of technological advancement. So I totally agree. Places like the US and other countries could certainly ramp up some of their own manufacturing, some of their own exporting, and some of those things. But I think that's a separate problem. And I don't know that the advancements in technology are necessarily a problem. I know myself, I don't sit and play video games because I'm unhappy. I sit and play video games because I bust my butt at work all day. And when I'm done, I have friends from all over the world that I've made
Mhm.
playing video games. I have friends in Doha, in Qatar. Qatar. Some people pronounce it Qatar. I have friends in the UK. I have friends in Australia. I have friends in the Philippines, Taiwan. You know, uh, or Thailand rather, you know, the only way for me to connect with those individuals is to get online. Maybe one day we can do that in the metaverse, but for years and years, we've been using World of Warcraft for that purpose. We've been using Discord. We've been using now VR chat more recently. what's going to happen when we can get into a metaverse together and build something that we built as friends who've never met in person before, you know? So yeah, I do think that those issues you describe are there, but I don't think one thing is the fault of the other thing.
Yeah, and I wasn't linking the fact that the service-based economy caused the factories and the actual production aspect to decline. So I wasn't linking that, but I'm just saying that the foundation needs to be there. But I think there's also, again, there's a distinction that needs to be made between if you say, hey, you get off work, what did you do? You actually were providing value to society, and then you're saying, hey, I get off work, I'm tired, I want to interact with my friends, so I'm going to go and play a game for an hour or two, or however long it is for you, right? But there have been studies done that there are people out there spending 4, 6, 8 hours on Instagram, right? Like that is there's a difference between saying, putting a small amount of your time into something versus a large amount of your time. And it's at the end of the day, if you have more factory producing goods, you're going to have less people in the service sector. And like the universal basic income, to me, that's not going to work. We've kind of discussed that on other podcasts. I think people who think that, we're going to have some income that the government's going to hand them and that they're going to be able to then go and use that income and just basically be unemployed and play a metaverse game is just like, good luck with that. If we think as a society we're going to do that, I think you need electricians.
It's already happening.
Providing.
That's the thing. It's already happening. So
You're
it's not like we're gonna go do that. It's we've already doing it, and a lot of us think that this call it like the new wave of metaverses, so to speak, is just going to be a really big leap forward. But those ideas that we're going to sit around and play video games and make money all day, that's been going on for probably 15, 20 years already.
Not on a large level. There might be individuals who are doing that. You do not have millions of people just sitting around that are going to be collecting universal basic income from the government. You have some people that are on unemployment right now, but that's not going to last forever. Okay.
Wait, hold on. Are we talking about making money from the metaverse? Or are we talking about universal basic income? Because I don't want us to like shuffle the two decks together. You know what I mean?
Well, Eddie was saying about,
where are we going?
Eddie was saying universal basic income earlier, so I was talking about that. Now, again, you might have people that are going to make money off the video game, right? But you can't. You're not going to have a large, I think, a majority group of people making money. I don't think that.
That's fair. Somebody, of course, it won't be the majority. I don't think it'll be some. I think, what'll it look like? Is it 1% versus 99? Is it 5 versus 95, 10 to 90? We have no idea at this stage. But I think that there's merit to what you're saying, which is most people who get into this metaverse may come in thinking they're going to make money, but really they're just consumers and spenders. And I think that that's accurate. But I think there's plenty of money to be made. It really depends on what type of virtual businesses can be stood up in a successful way. So for example, this podcast, the technology exists today, Antone. We could have done this podcast in virtual reality. We could have done it live in virtual reality in front of an audience today. So to bring it all together, on that 1-to-1 scale copy of Earth and unlock that to people who own the land, that's the direction Earth 2 wants to go. And that's what so many of us believe in. For gamers, I know you guys aren't, big gamers. Every gamer ever at some point or another said to themselves, wow, what if they made a video game of Earth and we could do whatever we wanted? That's been the dream of gamers probably since the 70s and 80s. And we're here now. It's time.
So I kind of want to follow into that, right? Nameless, really, when you were identified into Earth 2, because we've been talking about it a little bit, but curious, of all the metaverses that are out there, right, why did you select Earth 2 and decided to, put in, as you've mentioned a couple times, a pretty sizable amount into this, and kind of, if I'm hearing you correctly, try to possibly run this as a business and actually, well, was it more for the gaming extent or the potential and the ability to actually grow it as a revenue generating business?
So it's a combination of both. My goal, my my top priority is to generate revenue. I put, for me anyway, when I say a lot of money, I say for me, I put a lot of money into Earth 2, around 40 grand. And my top priority is to make money, but in terms of like my roadmap, my action items, right? My first goal to accomplish is to create the most premium experience any user in Earth 2 could possibly have. And then figure out how can we monetize this, right? If I wanted to make money off of Earth 2 right now, I've made enough gains off of my virtual real estate. I could sell my property for 75, 80% off, and I'd still triple, quadruple my initial investment. And I'd be out of here, right? That's not the goal. My goal, when I saw this from the very beginning, was, okay, I like this. I think this is going to work. I believe in this concept. I'm willing to take the risk. So then I set out a couple of goals. One, I wanted to build or be part of a community, which we've done. We've built the largest community on Earth 2. Two, we wanted to build a brand. Alpha Kingdom is our in-game brand. That's the name of our guild. Guidebook Gaming is the name of our Twitch stream, and our content creation is under the brand of Guidebook Gaming. Alpha Kingdom is the name of our community. So we're already creating brands. We're already generating revenue off of Earth 2 through our Twitch stream, through other support that we have, other income streams. That's all already happening, and the game's not even here yet. So doing those things, our goal is to create that best experience we can. We have a global community, and our in-game presence is global as well. So we're not just like people who bought some property and said, I'm going to put a virtual shopping mall here and I'm going to make all sorts of money. We built, we call them settlements or mega cities. We have 40, okay? They're all around the world. And we're going to say to ourselves, how do we create a unique, distinct experience so that when everybody comes into Earth 2, we all know word of mouth is the best advertising, right? When you come in and you make friends for the first time in the metaverse, our goal is to be a brand that everyone has to say, yeah, but have you been to the Alpha Kingdom yet? Right? We'll figure out how to monetize it. There's plenty of ways to do that, but the goal is to create the best customer and community experience there could be.
How many people are on Earth 2 at this time?
About 300,000 plus. So we know it was 300,000 at least a couple months ago. So I would have to say 300,000 plus. I don't have an exact number for you.
Okay.
So, hey, $50 to $100 million from 300,000 people. That's not bad for a game that's still in development. You know what I mean? I'm not the only one who thinks that this is going somewhere.
And I'm not a gamer myself. So I see this project as purely as a crypto project and as a technology project. And that's the reason why I'm betting on it. I'm not investing on it. I'm betting the amount that I feel like I'm comfortable to bet on this technological shift. I would say that way.
I mean, you guys are basically
real quick, Eddie. Okay. Why would you classify this as a crypto project?
Mm-hmm. So Nameless can add up, but Shane, the CEO, has already announced that they are making a deal with the crypto blockchain technology, right, Nameless?
Yeah, I would even simplify it more and like it just in the most layman terms. The terms of service have always stated that by joining Earth 2, you authorize Earth 2 to convert all your money into a crypto that they may create later.
Thank you.
So when Eddie says, I'm looking at it like a crypto project, crypto has always been in the cards, always. Mm-hmm. So,
and then by the time like AJ, like I talked to you in January, it was not like that, but I could sense because I have worked on several crypto projects past 5 years here and there. So I could smell this. Oh, this is a good setup for a crypto project because what is the most important thing in any crypto project? It's a decentralization, right? And there's so many cryptocurrency projects that I was involved in. I've been monitored in past 10 years, and they all failed because they failed to decentralize. And it is about like, there's no value on money. Like it's fiat currency, it's all, paper money these days. It's just because it's decentralized to everyone. That's why it's a value. We agreed to spend it as a money. So many cryptocurrency project, we focus on how do I distribute this evenly across like many people? And what's fascinating about Earth 2, and the reason I made the decision to go on is because people are like without the game company trying hard, right? They're not marketing hard or they're not trying hard, but people are like naturally decentralizing these digital properties. So that's like super fascinating. And I have a chart
But
with
is it
me over
really
here.
decentralized though? If it's
Mhm.
if it's a gaming company that is in charge of the whole metaverse, like can you
Yes,
really
that's
Not
say
a
that's
risk.
currently.
That's
decentralized?
a
No,
definitely a
it's not.
risk. Yeah, that's a definitely a risk that this is currently tied to a actual company. But that's a risk I'm trying to take because if I were Shane, if I were the CEO, I'll probably take this route because this is bigger than just being a company in some country, right? Because they're like global population voluntarily decentralizing the ownership of this digital property. And if I'm a Shane, I would probably take this bigger than just register as a gaming company. So that's the reason I'm kind of predicting.
I mean,
Yeah,
basically,
and
you
that's already
guys.
happening. I mean, they already have their own virtual credit card and things like that. So, yeah, I totally agree, Eddie. I think their goal is to be much bigger than just a gaming company. They're looking at it
Mhm.
more like an actual platform
And for
or an
yeah,
engine rather than just a single game.
and for
Sorry,
me,
Anton.
like AJ, I've been doing different projects and entrepreneurship. So this time, I think the Shane is doing a lot better business than I do. That's why I'm like, oh, Shane, you go ahead, do your thing. I will learn from you, and yeah, let's see how Shane makes my money bigger or not. And in the future, I'm willing to participate not as a game. I'm not a like gamer. I want to also do my business using the Ursu platform. So I'm like, kind of previewing it. That's how I see
Yeah.
the game.
I think that I
Basically,
would probably disagree with. I just want to just shove this in. I don't know if you guys want to go down this rabbit hole, Antone, really quickly, which is I don't think, and really I think the biggest risk to the Earth 2 project right now, and it's been this way for probably 5 or 6 months, is brand management. I think brand management is key and the customer experience is king, right? Those are the two most important things. You could have a bad product, and if you manage your brand really well, you'll do great, right? If you manage your brand really well, you'll do great. And that's one of the things I'm not seeing, and I'm losing a lot of confidence with Earth 2 and being one of the community leaders, being probably one of the loudest voices and most recognizable voices in the community. I've tried to leverage. I'm trying to reach out to the developer team and work with the developer team and say, hey, you're sitting on a gold mine here. Don't sell the land and walk away from it, so to speak, or don't, build a McDonald's on it. Like, you've really got to manage this brand like a premium brand, like the Apples, the Googles, and the Facebooks of the world, if you want this to be successful. And right now, that's just not happening.
basically, you guys are trying to be. If we want to use Instagram as an example, right? Most
Mm.
people that are on Instagram are just everyday users. You guys are trying to be Instagram influencers in the sense that you're trying to make money off of Instagram, and I know that might not be the best
I think that's a
example to use,
similar
but
approach. That's a good catch. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I don't,
so
but go on.
yeah, but
I want
basically
to let him finish.
you have these Instagram influencers that make a lot of money off Instagram, right? Well,
Mm.
if we want to look at what happened during COVID, right? When economic times went down,
Hmm.
those people were out in the desert starving to death because that was their income source, right? And it was off of ad revenue, basically off of followers, uh, providing ad hits for them. Well, even those followers didn't disappear when COVID hit, right? They still had the same amount of followers that they had, but the companies that were willing to pay for that ad revenue to them,
Hmm.
they who are the real producers of value, right? They have,
Hmm.
maybe like cosmetics or whatever it is,
Hmm.
some good that they want to
Hmm.
push to that audience. That money went away because they had
Right.
their real business use, their traffic and sales went down. So then all these Instagram people, basically were like, I'm gonna what's gonna happen to me, blah blah
Hmm.
blah. You had OnlyFans take off, and you had all these people
Yeah.
going on OnlyFans, basically selling their bodies, basically because they lost their jobs. And another thing I want to bring up, separate from that, which you guys can respond to that as well, but while all these people are gaming, right? The world has lived in a time where the US basically was very rich, and a lot of countries were very rich post World War II. And so I think a lot of these basically social welfare examples, whether to individual people or to other countries, right? Because the US pays a lot of money to other countries.
Hmm.
And I think that is going away. Okay, I think people that take for granted that the U.S. and its umbrella is going to be there to basically watch over the world is they better think twice about that, because if you're in your basement, whether that's in the U.S. or Korea or some other country, Japan, might not even be in Asia, right? It could be in Europe. What are those people going to do? And I think of video games with swatting, right? What are you going to do when you're in your home playing video games and you haven't been outside all day and you don't realize that the Chinese and the Russians and the Iranians have come and taken over your country and have invaded, and you hear a knock on the door and it's like, all right, come on out, like this is over. I look at that and say, I just this whole alternate reality again. It's if you're doing it for just an hour a day or 2 hours to get your mind off your work, fine. But if individuals think that they're just going to be able to just let it all go and do nothing of value but exist in a metaverse and an alternate reality, I mean, we're in trouble if we have a lot of people who think that that's what they're going to be doing.
So two things. I want to get to your second point first. I don't know that anyone thinks that they can do that second thing you described, like quit their job, sit at home, and only play Earth 2 all day.
I don't think Antone plays video games, so we should.
But they're doing it. Yeah, but there's people on their Xbox for a lot of hours.
Yeah, gaming addiction is a problem. It does ruin lives. Is this another game that's going to ruin lives because people have addictive personalities and addiction is a disease and they get sucked into these things and they don't know how to let them go? Just like World of Warcraft, just like Pokemon Go, just like social media? Yeah, probably. Right? Do most people think that? No. Like, I don't think that just sitting around playing Earth 2 8 hours a day is what's going to make me money. Going to your other point about Instagram, and these people lose their ad revenue from their sponsorships and all those things, I wouldn't equate it to that. I would look at it a little bit more like YouTube. YouTubers also saw a decline in, companies calling them for sponsorships, but what did they see an increase in with everybody sitting at home, not at work? So many people sitting at home, not at work, ad revenue.
But that's only because Google. That's only because Google was one of the few companies that was doing well. Okay, in a world where
Facebook is doing well,
but YouTube is owned by Google. Yeah, but YouTube is owned by Google.
Ad revenue in general did really, really well for places that maintained and a lot of places that saw an increase in traffic during COVID. And as an Earth 2 landowner, you're going to be more like the YouTuber than the Instagram person. So let's say ad revenue comes out today. When you come to my property in Earth 2, the ad is going to be delivered to you. I don't have to wait. Let's say it's Apple. I don't have to wait for Apple to call me and say, can we put ads on your property? The Earth 2 system, just like Facebook, just like YouTube, just like Instagram, is going to handle that. And I'm just going to get my cut of the pie.
Yeah, but they need to have the money. They need to have the money to pay that. That's what I'm saying.
Who's they in this case? Is that companies, Apple or Earth 2?
It doesn't matter. No, but the companies, Earth 2 is not going to be, there's only so much in terms of ad revenue, right? Where does the ad revenue come from, right? If it's from Earth 2, then they're collecting it from other users, right? And you as an influencer, we'll call you an influencer in this sense, you might do well, right? But there are other people, the majority, they will not, I don't think. And the same thing goes if it's not from Earth 2, if people are relying on this revenue from these companies, people do not understand how precarious the financial system is right now and has been. This is not a COVID thing. I mean, yes, the COVID contributed to it because there was a shutdown and there still are, kind of relative shutdowns in certain parts of the world. But the world since, I think, the late 80s and early 90s, we lived off of the fat that was created from World War II for many decades. And then starting in the late 80s, early 90s, that was like the peak level of prosperity. And ever since then, we're basically living off of a smaller and smaller cow, but we're still surviving, right? There's going to be a point in time when the milk that we're getting from it is declining, and there's eventually going to be no milk, and we're going to have to kill the cow. And then people are going to have a real awakening to the fact that, okay, there's no more cow. Now it's time for everybody to put on their boots and get to work. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
So I don't necessarily disagree with the idea, but once again, I don't necessarily know that they apply to Earth 2 distinctly. How does that apply to Earth 2 any more than, say, your podcast or my Twitch stream?
Well, I would say it in the sense that we're providing economic activity growth to help grow people. We're capital allocators, right? It's not something where yes, I think our job is as a service just as much as yours is. I would say providing financial advice and management to people is a little bit of more importance, but I also agree to that point of that question, right?
Well, he's talking
The
specifically
basis.
of the podcast. So,
Right.
I mean,
Does the
to answer your
podcast do that,
question,
or is the podcast
Oh
just another
no,
point of
the
entertainment?
no. It's
podcast
I
is
think
just
it's education. It's an
Yeah, so
educational
that's what I mean
piece.
when I say
Yeah.
I agree with your idea, but I don't think that idea is distinct to Earth 2 or the metaverse. I think it applies to your podcast, my Twitch stream, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all of those things. And I don't think that any of those things are a reason to not consider investing in, the metaverse of your choosing, or the stock of your choosing, for that matter. You know what I mean?
But
Or
there's a
watching your
difference.
podcast or the
Yeah.
Twitch stream.
But there's a difference between talking about it from, I guess, your perspective. Because again, I'm not disputing the fact that there are individuals that are probably going to make a lot of money, and companies that are, I mean, again, Facebook and Google and all these, they're going to be investing probably in this because they know there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are going to be willing to play this stuff, right? So there's a difference between talking about you as an individual or those companies and the greater populace, right? That's where what I'm talking about. I'm talking about for the majority of people. And again, if we're talking, hey, people want to pay $15 a month and they're going to spend an hour or two a day doing this, have at it. Like, I'm not that's different from what I'm talking about, but I'm talking more to the mania that I see out there, whether it is cryptocurrencies or these alternate realities of people that we're not talking $15 in a week or two. We're talking about the people that are on Instagram 6 to 8 hours a day. They're on Call of Duty 6 to 8 hours a day. They're refusing to go back to work because of COVID. It's the people who think, oh, I'm going to make a ton of money here. And, I'm doing this, it's like, come on. I mean, again, even if you make money, is that if it's in US dollars, right? Is that dollar going to be worth anything down the road? Because if they haven't been looking at the news, we have a lot of inflation out there. Again, the Chinese are getting stronger. The Russians are not scared of the US anymore. You have a lot of stuff in the world that can be, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long-term risk, or it could be medium or short-term, depends on when we go off that financial cliff we keep avoiding. It's like we turn and veer off of going off of the cliff at the last second every time. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I'm not going to be so afraid of it that I'm not willing to take a chance like this. You see other people kind of get into that same space. Look at Warren Buffett, for example. All these years, Apple has seen the amazing success that it has. Warren Buffett didn't get into Apple until 2013, 2014.
Right.
He realized, he learned, he understood the opportunity, and now Apple is the largest holding that he has. I think he's got something like over 20%, probably like 35% of his holdings in Apple. Because he realizes he missed a huge opportunity, and he's jumping in, he's catching up to it now. But why is that? Because he never wanted to invest in something that he didn't understand, right?
Right.
So I think from that same token, Antone, Earth 2 is not for you. Earth 2
Definitely
is
not.
for where that fine balance of I like investing, or maybe crypto, or I have those financial goals and that financial future, where that meets a particular type of gamer. People who like economic simulators, maybe real-time strategy games like StarCraft, who understand how to turn resources into creations that people want, and how to create an in-game experience that other people desire to take part in, and then how to monetize on that.
Yeah.
That does not sound like your thing, right? Now, for me personally, that's me all day. Go ahead, Eddie.
Eddie, wait, before you say something really quick, you just mentioning to people, you brought up Nameless just brought up Warren Buffett. Just so people knows, I believe, Nameless, you are correct that Apple is now his largest holding. Also, Warren Buffett has the most cash I think he's ever had in his life on
Yeah.
the sidelines because he's scared shitless.
Yeah.
I think of the economic situation. I've never talked to him, but I think he does not look around at the economic investment environment and think, oh, I'm real bullish. But that's
Yeah.
anyway. Sorry, Eddie.
100%. It could be his age, right?
Yeah, I was going to
As you
argue
get
that.
older,
I mean,
it's standard. You should have more cash. You should have your money in safer things. I think Apple's pretty safe. But go ahead, AJ. I'm sorry.
no,
Yeah. So,
go ahead, Eddie. Go ahead.
in the sense
Poor
of
AJ.
like we talk about the economic crisis and everything, and the Instagram versus YouTube versus this. So there are a few things I want to go over. So first of all, in terms of
Taking
investment,
notes here. Go ahead.
so um, I think like compared to other crypto projects, like Earth2 is undervalued, and that's why there's still a room for opportunity, I believe. And if you look at the Dogecoin, the active address is around like 40,000 right now, right? And Earth2 has like 300,000, claimed players. So if that's the true, so that is similar to the size of Ethereum right now. So these are the data points that I'm looking into when deciding whether this project is well decentralized or not, right? Another point for the cryptocurrency market. So many of the blockchain cryptocurrency, we use the public key, right? Public key as a like wallet address. And there's a private key underlying it, which only the person owner knows, right? So if you apply this similar logic to Earth2, basically the advantage that Earth2 have is that public key is a geo coordinate that is universal to every 8 billion people in the world. So I know if I hide my some value in only places only I know, this is fair compared to other cryptocurrency where mining dominance can take over the control of the projects or so. So I find Earth2 is more fair to compared to other crypto projects. And another thing, Anton, you mentioned compare with the Instagram and to YouTube. So Earth2, the way I see is, Instagram is like a 2D platform. YouTube was a video platform now getting a feedback like live streaming, right? So that's getting famous. So that's like a feedback platform. So now the Earth2, what they're trying to be is the 4D platform where it's going to shoot for as similar as possible as a real life, right? So there's also another side of a technology that should be the prerequisite for Earth2 and this metaverse success, which is a feedback technology, right? So there's like a gloves and coats and hats and everything's out there right now. And what a recent article I read is now there's a globe that you can feel like actual rain dropping on your hand. Like blind test, people cannot tell the difference between the real raindrop versus this computerized simulated experience. So it's not just about the Earth too, but this whole concept of virtualization. What I see is that I'm not gonna go to moon. I'm not gonna risk my life to go underneath the ocean. I'm gonna freaking wear this clothes and feedback machine and I'm gonna send my robot or avatar to explore the space or down the earth. And I see the metaverse as a middle point where we experience this because I want to feel real compared to going to concert, right? So I feel the way I see as a person in the technology area is a metaverse is like a key step for this feedback technology to gets powerful. And Nameless, I think you can add more to the feedback technology. You might know more there.
I think I would really add that just as the final point is Eddie's hitting on one of those, another one of those key distinctions between Antone, probably folks like you and myself, which is the gamers, right? The more immersive you want your gaming experience to be. I've seen the mountains, I've seen the waterfalls, I've seen the treetops and the snow caps and all those things in the real world, which Earth 2 players would call it Earth 1. I've seen that. I get just as much enjoyment and I get just as much immersion out of doing that from my computer screen. And if that, I see on Antone's face, he's like, I don't know that I understand that. And it's just one of those distinctions between the two types of people. I played World of Warcraft for a long time. Flying through the mountains on my flying mount in World of Warcraft is more fun to me than a hay ride or hiking up a mountain is ever going to be. Are we going to get to a place where that virtual experience is as immersive? Am I going to hear the birds the same way? Am I going to hear the twigs snapping under my feet the same way? Those things are still missing from the virtual experience, but yeah. So sorry, AJ, I know you're trying to say something here. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I was gonna play off because it's interesting you mentioned that, right? I'm the opposite, right? I'm one of those people who I would prefer the real experience. In fact, I've had conversations with same friend that I mentioned who's really into VR and kind of on a development team for that area, where I've had conversations with her and she's saying, oh, there will be times where it can be confusing, right? Defining the difference between the two. And in my mind, I'm like, what? That makes no sense. One is real, one is not. Like, I prefer the real sensations, where I would, Eddie, prefer to go to the moon myself and be able to say,
No,
hey,
it's not everyone can
I've been
afford
here
it, right?
first.
Like, not
Yeah.
everyone is Richard Benson or like Jeff Bezos, and I can go to the moon or feel like 90% of it, like a similar experience, 90%, then I don't have that money to go to moon like them.
Well, you never know. Time will tell. But I mean, one of the questions I wanted to ask was, we've seen with the pandemic and a lot with 2020 that a lot of these companies that are more tech-based or virtual, their timetables of growth essentially accelerated, right? Zoom is a great example, right? Could you argue that when it comes to the metaverse, even though that the technology is still being developed and you can say, yes, it's continuing to grow, but that growth has started to decelerate or just not accelerate as quickly as it was during the pandemic, just because now we're at a time where people have been inside for so long? I mean, we hear this all the time in just the traditional financial space, right? Of, okay, well, uh, the tech growth space, they're not going to be as large as investing into airlines, because now people are starting to go out and fly more, right? Could you argue that could be a detriment just here in the near term future for the metaverse in regards to your guys' growth? People will just want to be out in the real world a bit more.
I think it'll be quite the opposite.
Interesting. As why?
In spite of COVID, regardless of that, yeah, COVID was bad for a lot of people in a lot of ways and bad for a lot of industries in a lot of ways. It was great for gaming. Gaming saw a huge increases because of it. Is the end of COVID going to mean the deceleration of gaming? I don't think so. It might not continue to grow at the same rate, but people love video games. Video games are getting better. They're getting more immersive. There's a video game for anything and everything that you want to do. Right. So I don't think so at all. And in fact, I see, before COVID, okay, people did not always choose camping and hiking and going to the swimming pool or the amusement park over things like World of Warcraft and over, other MMOs, Final Fantasy,
Yeah, that's the
Minecraft,
problem.
Candy
That's the
Crush, for
problem.
crying out loud, Pokemon Go. You think why do you think it's a problem? I don't
That's
think
the
that it's a
problem, because
problem.
if you look at society 50 years ago, it was a lot happier. Just by and large, they have stats to do that. They've done studies on it. I mean,
none of
you
us
look at
were
even.
alive 50 years ago.
I know, but
so I
I'm
don't know if
bringing
we
the
can
I'm
Yeah,
bringing
it's
the
actually
also
knowledge right now.
who they
So
were studying and the stats they were taking
yeah, but
is also somewhat skewed.
You might have some people, right? Like you said, you prefer the alternate universe to the reality side of it, right? And I'll give a better example. Okay, maybe that for a lot of people like music. If you look at videos of concerts back in the day, even up until like the 80s and maybe early 90s, the energy in the concerts back in those days was different to today. And you might
Oh,
ask,
you're going to the
okay,
wrong
why is
concerts.
Right. Well, why is that? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. The two. Hold
I'm
on.
gonna
Hold
have to
on. Be
disagree
quiet.
with you,
Everybody,
man.
be quiet. So here's the reason. Okay. Here's the reason. Okay. The reason is because, one, the musicians were a lot better back in the day, but two, if you look at the energy now, if you look at concerts back in the day, people didn't have cell phones. Right. They were just in the moment enjoying the concert. Now everybody has their, they have their light. They're trying to take a video of it, and so they're so focused on the video that they're not engaging in the concert with their energy, and they're just watching it. And the one other thing I wanted to say about your example of people preferring the alternate universe to reality, what about when they go to eat their food and they don't have any food to eat because, you know, they're in their alternate universe and there's no food being produced? Okay, because one thing people don't realize, my family's from a farming background. Very few people want to get into farming. Okay,
So
so
I
what's going to
disagree
happen?
with.
Well, so there's nobody who wants to get into farming. You have certain areas of the world that supply the vast majority of
Mhm,
food. California and the Central Valley
mhm,
provides a lot of the food of the world, right? And what happens when no one's working in that industry? You have no
mhm,
water. Because I hear people in California complain like, "Oh, all the farmers take all the water." You know, it's like, well,
mhm,
guess what? Guess what? That water that they're using is being put into food that you eat. Okay, the
mhm,
water that you use for your grass or those shrubs you like, that provides really no value. Okay, yes, it makes your house look, you know, nice, and I'm
mhm,
not begrudging anybody of those people to have water to feed their
mhm.
lawn, their yard, but let's prioritize what matters. Do you want some
Yes,
fresh food
that's more
or
matter. That matters more, and that's why we should all have a balanced portfolio, right? To fight against all that. So speaking of the metaverse, you mentioned like we are like people are less happy, right? But I
yeah,
want to share some other perspective. There are like 7 billion people who never went to concert in this world, right? Like maybe not 7 billion, but 6 billion. So the idea of metaverse is like bring the Disney world to like Somalia or Syria, like those deprived children, right? They will never go to Disney World in the whole their life, right? But the idea of like this feedback technology and metaverse and digital is bringing up this pie a lot bigger. Like look at the Fortnite, right? So the reason why metaverse things kicked in is because like when the Travis Scott did his concert, it was only for like some U.S. or some famous countries, not for those people in Syria or like Sri Lanka, right? But what
it,
metaverse brings is that makes this content that was exclusively available for only individuals to worldwide digital everywhere, everyone. So that's
yeah,
why
but
it's like making more people happy, I would say. Some people, because of digitalization, may lost that happiness, but for those people who have been deprived for many years, like will,
Yeah.
they're
enjoy.
not worried about that though.
I want to
They're
quickly
worried more
layer
about
onto that if
avoiding.
I can.
Sorry, go ahead.
It just sounds like, Antone, I just want to understand if I'm kind of honing in on your perspective accurately or not. What I'm taking away is you don't have as much of an issue with the metaverse specifically as it seems like you have an issue with this idea that addiction to technology and people spending too much time with technology and not balancing that with a healthy lifestyle is, you think, a concern that has bigger implications and it can affect the global economy and issues like that more so than I hate the metaverse. Am I getting that right?
I would say yes. It comes down to the time and money that's being inputted. So
Okay, I respect that.
if you're putting input of an hour of a day of your time and $15 a month, cool. Okay, I'm not gonna that's everybody's prerogative, right? But the issue I see is I doubt that that's what's going to happen for a lot of people. I'm not saying the majority might end up being that way, right? But there's a huge percentage of people in whether it's social media and a lot of this tech. I mean, think about the amount of people right now that are on TikTok all the time, you know, ignoring the fact that
Seriously.
the Chinese are just basically spying on them and trying to socially change people with those TikTok videos. And again, like Eddie's point about, you know, these underprivileged areas of the world and how the metaverse is going to bring them some aspect of enjoyment that they wouldn't have either in other ways. My argument to that is they're more concerned with feeding themselves, having good, clean water, and avoiding genocide. You know, it comes down to a prioritization of needs. And metaverse again is something. It's a luxury. It's something that the first world, as a wealthy countries, is able to have at the moment. But my contention also is, I don't think that a lot of these countries in the world that have been wealthy and successful for the last, you know, let's say a century. Some of them it might be a little bit less, some of it many centuries. I don't think that I see a change in the winds coming, right? That's why I brought up China, Russia, and some of these other places in the world. There's going to be upheaval, and I think people that don't start prioritizing their survival by working hard and doing certain things, they're going to be in for a rude awakening, because I think personally in the U.S. there's a lot of people that don't realize what hard work is anymore, and
Sure.
I think that there's a lot of people that we don't have enough people that know how basic like plumbing, electricity, right? We need electricians, we need plumbers. And I think if you're a country that's living a little closer to China, I think I'd be scared. Okay. The last thing I'd be doing is gaming if I was living in countries like Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, India. I mean, I'd be a lot more concerned about, who's across my border right now, trying to become basically King Tut, over and take over the role of the U.S. because the U.S. isn't
But
going to
not
be there.
everyone can live like that,
Those
right?
countries
Somebody
spend
should
billions on
create a
gaming.
movie, someone should create a video, someone should do different things. So those people in the manufacturing industries or those industries, they should worry about that, right?
Yeah, but
But
what
some
industries? They
politicians,
don't have any of those. They don't have any industry. That's what I'm saying.
Sure they
What
do.
manufacturing? I mean,
Oh, manufacturing, yeah, sure.
yeah,
But
very,
that's as we become a more global society, right? That's just going to happen. We're going to see manufacturing and these things. I mean, it's already happened, right? It's not me trying to predict something. This is how we got to where we're at.
yeah.
We're going to see, it goes back to the point Eddie made earlier. You're going to see manufacturing move to places where it's cheaper. You're going to see labor move to places where it's cheaper. I get your concern. Well, that is a risk to some other economies, because what happens when we need those goods and services and all we have are the services? Yeah, that's fair. But again, to that same token, here we are recording a podcast, contributing to some of those things that you're referring to. So I totally respect the perspective, but at the same time, every one of us to an extent is partaking in that. And it comes down to what I think, how do we balance our lives as individuals?
But by the way, there's also many articles about manufacturing itself is also going to metaverse. And the reason is because of the 3D printers and this technology. You don't build a building anymore. You don't need a plumber anymore because you freaking print a whole house these days. So that's the technology that's gonna go. And that's already done by
Uh,
Gucci or
I'm
like
not
those
living. I'm not living in a house that's 3D printed. I'm
You
sorry.
might not, you might
I'm going
not,
to.
but one
I mean,
day, one day you might go to a Subway and your sandwich will be made by a robot that has a screen for a head, and you're looking at, my avatar or Eddie. It won't be us, but let's just say for the sake of arguing, you're looking at my avatar or Eddie's avatar, and he talks about these immersive VR gloves. There are already robots that can do things like stock shelves through an immersive VR experience. You'll never, for some of these roles, some of these jobs, you won't even have to leave home to do your factory job. The factory will still be there, the lights will still be on, the conveyor belts will still be running, but you'll be managing, remotely, like
yeah,
through
our
drone
world is.
technology.
Yeah, but our
It's
world
just
is
where we're
in
going.
trouble. Our world is in trouble because I think I'll use this. I think that's a great example that you just brought up
All right,
about
last
making your
rant, Antone,
sandwich.
so we can
No, no,
actually
no, no. This is gonna
let
keep
them talk
going.
a bit
I
about
love
the
these
So
rants,
metaverse.
honestly, because
the
I
No,
respect
honestly, we
it.
would
No,
keep
wait,
this
here, hold
going
on,
for like
AJ.
another
Let me
2 hours
talk
if we
here.
were
Let me
allowed
talk here. No,
Antone
hold
to
on.
keep going on
So
his point of view.
the sandwich idea, right, is Seattle. The I'm not a fan of Seattle. I don't like that city much.
That's why you never visit
So
me.
the
Rude.
yeah, so they passed. Hey, we need a livable wage, $15 an hour or more. I think what happens when you raise the price, of the way of labor, right? What happens? Well, what happens is companies start saying, okay, labor is too expensive.
Yeah,
You
but
see this
with
in
you can
farming.
say
You see,
with
hold on,
automation. No, I gotta
no,
interrupt
but
you and
hold on,
actually side on
I
them.
didn't even say a
You can
point.
argue with the automation and the robots that the cost of labor is actually
Yeah, but
reduced.
no,
Those
no.
are
Hold on,
deflationary
hold on.
forces
This
right
is the
there.
point. This is my point I'm making. Is what happened? Right? Is what they did is they fired one of the people. Let's say you had two people working at Subway. They fired one of them, and you need somebody there physically, obviously. But then they created a robot to basically do the job of what two people were doing. Right? So what happens is you now have one person who's unemployed. Right? That's a problem. And what's another reason why you have people losing their jobs? It's because labor, again, is too expensive via taxes. And that's why all this stuff goes abroad. And the point is, people try to legislate wealth into raising income levels, right? But when you do that, all you're doing is raising the cost of goods. So that's why in Asia, certain countries in Asia, it's very cheap and people can survive on far less in monetary value. Now, there is an extent to that, right, where they're also doing it with less. But there's
point,
aspects, and my point is in Thailand, right, you can eat a meal for $1, right? As a U.S. citizen, I go to eat a meal and it might cost me $5, $10, right? Well, what at the end of the day, what do? I'm eating a meal the same as somebody from Thailand is eating a meal. They're paying far less, right? So raising the costs of things makes no sense. And so we need to bring in, we talk about the foregone conclusion, like, oh, factories are over there, blah, blah, blah. It's not a foregone conclusion. We can pull it back. I don't know why we're putting companies to say, oh, let's go to China. We should be South Koreans
the pandemic has
or
shown,
US.
right, that with kinks in the supply chain, with an event that we had, right, that manufacturing, there does need to be an extent where it needs to be closer to home. Right?
Look what happened
National
to the
security
iPhone
concerns.
releases during COVID. But I do have to ask Antone, AJ, I know you're trying to get to the end of the rant, but I have to just go direct with this. I've been dancing around it and go direct with it. Why is any of this Earth 2's fault or the Metaverse's fault, and how does it have anything to do with Earth 2 or the Metaverse?
No, it's not the fault. It's not the fault of, like, Earth 2 and the Metaverse did not cause this. My issue is Earth 2 and the Metaverse are a larger reflection of this bigger movement, whether it be crypto and this desire to not live in reality. And I think that is what we need to nip in the bud. And so, because we're talking about Metaverse, and again, if we're talking about just having a game, having some fun for an hour a day, everything I'm talking about is not really relevant. But I know that is not the case for a lot of these people. Because if we talk about social media and these different, there are people that are spending way too much money or thinking that they're investing it when they're not. I mean, some of them, they think they're going to make money and they're wasting their time, and it's degrading our society. And there's other countries out there that are going to start taking advantage of us and have already done so, and that's a problem. So
so I definitely agree with Anton. Like, this NFT and this Metaverse, they go hand in hand, and this is like hype. This is definitely a hype, and it's not something like everyone should just like blindly jump in. And it's like, NFT came out like 3-4 years ago. I was following on that, and when there was the kitty, like the game, and like before that it was like cryptocurrency where Ethereum let anyone to print money, right? Basically printing token economics. And then this NFT appears that now, okay, you can get things unique online, right? So definitely I 100% agree. Currently it's like super hyped up, super bubble, and it will crash. It will definitely crash. But I think this is heading towards this digital ownership, like in the long run, like 10, 20, 50 years down the road. I don't think that his society will go back like, oh, this is all bullshit, we're just going to get rid of it. I don't think it's going to happen, because there are some people like us who believes in, some more serious people like crazy about. So it will make a return. Definitely, there's a point in time like things are hyped up and going bubble, and it will crash. But in the long run, I think it will come back all the time.
So
I think most people are probably in it for the game and not because they think they're going to make $1 million. Go ahead, AJ.
No, I mean, we can disregard Antone. He's a very old soul and wish he was born 50 years ago. And
he just hates technology. That's what we've learned. He hates technology.
Full transparency to everyone. Josh and I were able to actually, we didn't convince him, but he invested in his first cryptocurrency. So proud of you, man. Not too long ago. So yeah, he just hates innovation. That's all.
It's not innovation. It's not innovation, especially if we're all dead or in prison because some countries invaded us. That's a problem.
All right, your time is up.
Well, we still have the Second Amendment for now. We still have the Second Amendment
for now, right? That's exactly
Eddie
right.
And Nameless, I always like to give the opportunity for you guys to give the final thoughts or insights before we end the podcast episode. So Eddie, let's start with you. If there's any final remarks you'd like to let everyone know.
Yeah, definitely. This is like a bet. It's not an investment. It's never going to be an investment, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen. Like, I mean, it's depending on the company and like how much they can do. But the reason I'm in the space is because I don't think game industry is going to shrink down. I don't think this feedback technology is going to roll back, right? So I feel like this is a trend that's going to happen for next 5, 10 years. And the Earth 2 for me is a project that's so early enough that I can influence the project. I can make a project early on. Probably Nameless has the same approach on that. So definitely it's not something you should just blindly follow it, like put your money in. But it's something I feel that it might give some opportunity for any creators, any entrepreneurs, anyone who want to do something in digital space. I think there's some opportunity there.
Nameless, what about you?
I mean, as far as final thoughts, closing thoughts, I think I would say for anybody considering investing into a metaverse, I do personally believe Earth 2 is probably the best one. But I would layer on top of that and say every single one of these projects is either super early on or still in the concept stage, rolling things out incrementally, seeing, what happens as they go. And that makes it a very, very high risk. So even as someone who's bet pretty big on this thing, I would never shy away from, ignore the fact, or try to, sugarcoat the fact that there's definitely high risk. There's potential, but there's no guarantees. Like Eddie said, it's a gamble, just like with anything. Anytime you give your money to somebody else and ask them to make the money for you, there's a risk, and that risk grows depending on the status of the project. So I love it. I'm excited for it. And right now we're actually getting to a place where Earth 2 is really starting to ramp up the incremental releases. We're starting to see new functionality. We actually have breaking news that we're going to be covering tonight on our stream in about an hour as of when we've recorded this anyway. So I couldn't be more excited about where the project is at, even though, like I said earlier, the brand is not managed like what I would call a premium brand, and there's a lot of work they need to do and take seriously the image of their company. Like any metaverse, like any company, right? You have to take your image seriously and your brand seriously and create an exceptional customer experience, or you could have the best product in the world, nobody's going to care. We've seen that happen.
Yeah, total agreement. So where could listeners, if they ever want to get in touch with you or see some of your guys' content, where can they find you?
For me, I am on twitch.tv/guidebookgaming. Twitch.tv/guidebookgaming. We're also Guidebook Gaming on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We've got a Discord server. You can find a link. The Discord links are terrible. So you can find a link to our Discord server on any and all of our socials and reach out, and we get back to people as soon as we can.
Eddie, what about you?
You guys cannot find me. Reach me out through AJ, okay? If anyone want to talk to me.
All right. Well, again, thank you guys for taking the time to be on the podcast. And of course, time will tell whether Antone was right or you guys were. And if you were, you could rub it in his face. I'll give you my permission on that. But thank you.
Well, we give away free virtual land every single day. So, Antone, if you want to get into this for the lowest risk
maybe
possible,
just give him a piece. Come
join our Twitch stream, and we give away free virtual land every single day on Twitch. We're doing that all throughout 2021. Wow. We've given away over 1,000 properties. 0 cost.
If we make a big bucks, AJ, I'm definitely going to put a lot in your company if I make a lot from here. So, yeah, wish us luck.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you again, and until next time, everyone. Bye.
Thank you guys for having